welcome to the Forgotten Mike podcast. It looks so pretty.
I forgot to turn off the music this time.
Didn't forget?
No, I didn't. You just started talking sooner than I anticipated.
Oh, it's okay. Don't
but
worry
that's
about
different.
it. Welcome to the Forgotten Mike podcast. Yay, we're good.
Everything's good. Everything's going great. This is our first try again.
First try
For
everything.
Yeah.
It didn't take us like 5 test tries before this.
You know, look, this is at the end of the day.
It's
our first podcast in a few months.
Yeah, because we did it in December.
Yeah, we did.
Our first podcast was in December,
and
which
this
is a while away.
And this is episode 2.
And it's March.
And we're in a new set.
Yeah.
New area.
It's called the porch.
The porch. Yeah, I have a little porch rules here. You gotta follow them. It says
porch rules. We don't have like.
I know you can't see the whole thing, but it says sit and chat, sip a drink, and something else.
Sip a drink. That's the
well, no.
There's
More.
Part.
There's more rules. It's just out of frame, and I don't really. It's behind the couch. I don't really want to get into it. But yeah, we're in a new set, new area. We did have photos, but we do not anymore. I don't know what happened to them.
Oh, they disappeared.
They disappeared.
Yeah, we had some really cool photos of our set, but we can also show those on our other podcast, like the next podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can take some pictures.
Tune in to that next episode because we will be here very soon, right after this one. We'll get you those photos.
Yeah,
I promise.
We'll have some photos. We're kind of doing a podcast marathon, as you will, where we're spending our weekend.
We'll see how we feel after this one.
Yeah, we're spending our weekend doing the podcast that we've worked so hard on in the last few weeks.
Just preparing and kind of coming up with things to talk about and the logistics, because it was hard to get this stuff here and then to set it up it's a bit of a tight knit room.
Yeah, because it wasn't originally going to be this set. We were actually going to have our set where we originally had our set. I don't know. Our original set was at our school. Yeah. In a film.
Which was our first episode.
Yeah.
Was in our, technically not our edit suite, it was films, but.
That's what I said, film edit suite. Yeah. And I guess there's students that were working there and we didn't want to take over their space. So we're like, okay, let's think of another solution. And we thought, let's just move the entire set. Very last minute,
you know what the best way to,
it worked out.
You know what the easiest way to do anything is just pack up and leave. If you ever run into any issues with, you want to be nice, you don't want to take other people's stuff, just get out, just leave. Just
pack up and leave and try something else.
Yeah.
I think it's making a podcast is hard.
It takes work.
It's not easy.
Well, audio only podcasts are pretty easy.
Yeah.
But I'd say when you want to do like a whole video, like what we got going on here, and you want to do graphics and potentially guests and all that stuff, it can get really complicated and difficult to do.
Because we have like 3 cameras, we got our lights.
Especially with only 2 people, we don't have anybody behind the cameras. Actually,
no,
it is me.
They're just
doing all every button you see being moved is me doing it. Same thing as the last. Just got to throw a little bit of credit in there because it's hard work. Last episode I did the same thing, although I had a table to this and all that now.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. You got to take some budget cuts every once in a while.
I mean, technically, I man the cameras because I set them up.
You know what? You wanna?
I'm taking credit where credit is due as well. Anyways, we have a new podcast. This is it. Well, it's not new. It's the 2nd episode.
Yeah, it's the same podcast. Same title, same people. Everyone is happy and doing great. How you been doing in this time period since our last episode?
Well, it's spring.
Yeah.
So we're springing forward.
Wow.
That's going to be the name of our podcast. Right?
Well, we already titled it, so.
That's the thing. So we're springing forward into spring because it was winter when we did our last podcast.
That's how seasons work. Yes.
It was the end of December, and now we're March.
It was mid-December,
and now we're mid-March.
It was right before Christmas, and it was like I'd say it didn't feel like dead of winter. It felt more fall-y, I
Yeah.
guess you could say.
Yeah, because I don't think it was snowing. I think it was rainy.
No, there wasn't any snow.
No.
But yeah, it was still fun. We had a really good time. And we wanted to do it again. It takes time. It takes effort. We didn't have a lot of time between now and then.
Yeah, because we
And now
had.
we have kind of like a weekend where we can just kind of like just go bang, 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 get a bunch of them out of the way and kind of just have fun with it. Maybe have a few guests.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's
It's a big maybe.
big
A
maybe.
big maybe at the moment.
Little
But we
tease of a
may
big
have
maybe.
a guest or another guest. Potentially. Maybe. Why are we giving up hopes? Why are we giving people hopes?
Because you gotta get
Okay.
that clickbait.
I'm having troubles expressing words. Words are hard.
Words are difficult. Yes.
Yeah.
No, but I think the last episode was fun. It was a bit more relaxed. We didn't really think about it going into it. We kind of just talked about stuff on the fly and had fun with it, because this whole podcast originated from a podcast that you created on your own called I Forgot My Mic. So you can see how we got
I think
the title
it was
for this
called
one.
Forgot My Mic or something like that. I don't. Yeah.
Or no, I remember what it is. It was I forgot to plug in.
Yeah.
my mic.
No. Yeah. I
You
forgot
did
to
a whole
plug in
take
my
of your podcast, and then you realized you forgot to plug in your mic. Comedy gold, some might say.
It was really funny too when I realized, because I had finished like an hour.
It would have been great if
An
we could have
hour
gotten
podcast.
that recording of you. Oh wait, you forgot to plug in your mic. Dang.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try again. So
And
I did.
I will say, I listened to that first episode and only the first episode. And I was like, you know what?
It only has 3 episodes. That's
Yeah.
it, and it still exists. Like, it's still out there. I just don't have it active, I guess. I don't post to it anymore. I was thinking about it recently.
Yeah.
Over Christmas break, I wanted to try to make more podcasts for that channel. But I was like, do I want to keep going on that channel? Do I want to just
Yeah.
abandon it and keep going with this channel, because it kind of evolved into something different? But the only thing is I feel like we started this podcast with, we have 3 cameras and we have kind of all of this equipment, but because we're able to get this equipment because we're in school and we can like rent it out, but once we're no longer in school, we'll have to get our own equipment, so we'll have to kind of downgrade
Thanks for the reminder.
to 1 camera.
If we can
even get a camera, so it'll probably be audio only, which I find funny because when podcasts start up, they usually have just audio only, and then it's like 1 camera, and then it's 3, and finally they get a whole crew going, and we kind of like went backwards, or we're going backwards, which I find funny.
Yeah, but I think that comes out to just being a student, having access to equipment, and that's what we have here, and
Yeah.
we're trying to take advantage of this weekend, having access to all this stuff, and just being able to do it and having some fun with it.
And it's a good weekend too, and I love that it's spring. I don't feel so like cooped up anymore.
Yeah.
And like this area too is completely closed off because it's a porch out in like a colder area.
So I'll reiterate, or not reiterate, because I never iterated this in the first place. I don't think that's the way you said it. I
Explain.
never explained it.
Yeah.
Yes, this is considered a porch,
Yeah.
but it is not actually a porch. When my parents bought this is my parents' house. When my parents bought this house, it was a porch. Like there's like a big wall with windows and stuff behind, behind the cameras. That was just kind of like poles or something, so it was an actual porch. And then my dad and my opa hated it, so they decided, okay, we're just gonna kind of rebuild it, and they kind of built it into what it is now, which is more of a 3-seasoned sunroom in a way. So you can use it summer, fall, spring. You can use it in the winter, but it gets chilly. And for years we didn't have insulation.
No.
And when you
it's still chilly in here in the winter.
Yeah, you still have to turn the heat on, but without insulation, it was sometimes it would be colder in here than it was outside.
Oh.
It was brutal.
That is brutal.
But it did not stop me from when I was a kid playing hockey and basketball.
And
on this very floor.
And now it's heated, and so it's like nice and warm.
It's always been heated.
Yeah.
We just never really turn it on. If it's like -40, we won't turn it on.
Yeah, it's too cold, much too cold. But now it's nice enough, and we can kind of like use this space. And it's it's like nice and warm. You can go outside, and go for a walk or go do something fun activity wise.
I find spring is fun. I think it's kind of like you really when you're done at the end of summer, I feel like you're like, oh, I can't wait for the winter. I can't wait for Christmas, and that's time of the year,
Yeah,
fall,
for
when it's
Christmas
like
specifically.
there's no wasps anymore. And I know in
The
August you
wasps.
were just like, I hate wasps. I hate
Wasp
wasps, and
season.
it's so brutal.
Oh my
But
god.
no, but
so
then when
bad.
you get into spring, you become so much like you get grateful. About
Yeah.
like, oh, this is what we had. Like,
It's my favorite time of year.
well, I
Like
prefer
late
personally.
spring.
I prefer fall. I think
Yeah.
fall's more cozy in my opinion.
There are wasps
But-
though.
Yeah, but honestly, wasps will die off of.
I do like fall. I do like fall. But the wasps, they gotta.
It's more wasps are more August.
Yeah, that's true. August, September.
But I say October fall is the best fall. That's October, November,
Yeah, that is very.
right when you finish like Thanksgiving, Halloween, and it's like Christmas season now. You're like,
It is really nice. All the pretty colors of the leaves finally like falling and like transitioning into
yeah,
the winter.
no, yeah,
The holiday season is always really nice, and that's kind of the time we did the last podcast episode.
right before Christmas,
And I was like, I can't believe it's already spring, and we're almost April.
and we're almost graduating.
I know, my
Which is just crazy to think about because when we did that first podcast, the idea of graduation being quote unquote soon was so far ahead
Yeah,
that even now it's kind of weird to think about that, wow, like this is going to be a thing soon.
it's because we were not even halfway through the year.
No,
Or no, we were about halfway through the year, and
Yeah.
now we're well over halfway.
we're in the final stretch. right now.
Finals, we're in finals now.
So yeah,
Yeah.
this took us a long time to get this whole thing set up.
Yeah, so so definitely like not feeling as blue because it's nice and the weather is nice. It's not getting as dark as soon, so it's like 6 o'clock and it's still bright out.
7 o'clock.
I'm like, oh my goodness, what time is it? It's 7:30, and I think it's 5:30 or
Yeah.
4:30,
I
and
feel
I'm
like
so not used to it
it
yet.
changes your mood completely.
It's
I
so uplifting.
find.
Because
Yeah.
like we were out today in the market area, and there's just like all these people. It was 7:30 at like in the evening, or it was like 6.
5:30.
I don't know. It was about 6 o'clock, I think, or 6:30. 5:30.
5:30.
Anyways, it was past the time where it usually would be dark, right? And there were so many people, and it was so lively, and it felt like it was 3 p.m. in the afternoon for whatever reason. And I was just like, oh, this is so nice. And it didn't get dark until 7:30. It's getting to that point,
Yeah.
and it's just so
It's so nice.
uplifting, you know?
It is nice to be around. I find it's easier to have good days
Mhm.
when you're out and about and it doesn't get dark at 5 o'clock. I hate it. Especially as like people who like to do cinematography and stuff and shoot things.
Yeah, you just feel
It
so
gets
sad.
so frustrating when we wake up late. Like you say, you sleep in for a day and you're like, oh, I feel motivated to go and shoot something. By the time you're like ready and you go out, it's like dark and you're already. And you're just like, what is this? I can never shoot things unless you get up at 6 a.m. You can never get a real full day. Whereas in the summer, you could be halfway through your day. You're like, you know what? I want to go shoot something, and then you have a legitimate like time to do that, and it's so much more fun. And I find my spirits are generally a lot more lifted in the spring, and I love it.
I also love it. I think because when we were working on projects, we work in an edit suite, which is usually doesn't have windows. It's usually dark.
Yeah.
And so when we usually like walk to the school, or we'll get there. It'll be bright outside, but when we get there, we're kind of in a dark room for the entire day, and by 4 p.m. it's dark. So you're kind of consumed by darkness. It sounds pretty depressing, but you're in darkness for the entire day.
Especially with the really big projects that have to do a lot of editing. Like we'll spend days in there.
Long time.
We just finished one that was actually 3 videos, and we spent days.
Over a month.
Well, okay, we were in there for a month straight. Like we did week on, week off, but we spent a month on it shooting pre-production, shooting, editing.
Yeah.
And the editing part was probably the most grueling process, just because being in that edit suite for long hours,
and you don't
no
realize
sunlight, no fresh air.
No.
You don't, and maybe we should have probably gone for more walks,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
we just didn't do.
It gets frustrating after a while when you're in there because it's like you don't realize what time of day it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think this goes for pretty much everybody who works in an office or honestly anybody, because I worked from home for a while and I live kind of in it's not a basement unit, but my bedroom is located under a staircase on the first floor of the building. So I don't have much of a view. I usually keep the blind closed because people are constantly walking back and forth. So I don't have any light coming in. And it's like a basement apartment window. So you look up and that's your window. It's really small and it's pretty much really dark most of the day. So I'll be sitting there working, and it's really hard too, even during the summer when you're working and it's dark. And it gets dark at 8 and you think it's 5. You walk outside and it's all of a sudden dark. You're like, oh my goodness, what happened? And I think not having that like sunlight, it's so crucial to have some sort of sunlight or vitamin D in your life.
It'll completely change your mood. It'll completely change your day. Everything about it, I find.
Yeah, otherwise you're falling into a rut and you get kind of just down and out and sad, and it's just everything just drags on. It feels like everything drags on forever. Like
I find it's hard to, like, it feels like you hit rock bottom and there's no way up.
Yeah.
At times, because it's hard to get motivated. It's hard to be like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go to the gym today, because by the time you want to go to the gym, oh, it's dark outside. Now you're unmotivated.
The seasonal depression.
So hard to get out of that seasonal depression just because of the sun going up, sun going down. So like having a seasonal depression isn't just for people who live in colder climates, like here in Canada.
No. Oh yeah.
Because people down in California, like Southern California, who don't get snow, like they still might have a seasonal depression because the sun goes down early for them too.
And I don't know how they're, up north in Yellowknife.
That's a whole...
They have 6 months of day.
I don't know how they do
and
that.
6 months of night. I have no idea how they are able to survive that many dark hours.
I mean,
it goes to, you can see like it gets dusk, and you know when it's dusk, when it's dawn, and like the times of day based off the position of the sun.
But constantly being in the darkness is just so crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But I think when you acclimate to it, because it's something that a lot of these people generally, you're not gonna get a lot of people moving there. You're not gonna get a lot of people leaving there. So they're kind of just used to it. Like that's just what they know.
It boggles my mind.
But I don't know how to do it. I actually had a science teacher when I was in grade 9 who taught in like a place like that where they had 24-hour days, 24-hour nights. Or 24-hour darkness, 24-hour daylight.
I thought it's 6 months of daylight and 6 months of darkness.
Yeah, whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. So she lived in that for a year.
That's crazy.
And she said it was the weirdest thing. She told us a story about one time she had like the projector, and she went to turn off the lights. She didn't have the projector on. She turned off the lights and during the day, middle of the afternoon, and it was completely pitch black.
Oh
because
my
it's
God.
also in a very more remote location. There's not going to be as many lights around generally.
Jeez.
To begin with.
I can't even imagine.
So she turned the lights off, and like everyone was pretty used to it. And she was probably the only one scared because she didn't realize that they don't do that.
Oh my God.
Like they have to make sure that they have another smaller light on for when they turn off the lights so they can still see, because it just goes completely darkness.
That is terrifying.
And I've also seen like videos of people who are on like ships out in the middle of the sea.
Oh my God.
It at night is terrifying.
It's like pure, it's like the abyss.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
It just keeps going and going and going of just darkness, and you see nothing.
Oh my God.
And I saw people, because the Titanic, big misconception of it, because the movie you can see.
Yeah.
But in real life,
darkness.
like somebody took the movie and put it into perspective of what it would have looked like, especially when the power went out.
Yeah.
Of what it would have looked like, you wouldn't have been able to see a thing.
Oh, I got
those
goosebumps
people,
just thinking about
it's
that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, you think of how privileged you are, like living in a place where you can see things during the day, even though like around winter time.
We complain about having short days, but at the end of the day,
it is what it is. People have worse.
Yeah. But, I think regardless, because that's kind of where we live, and when we get used to the summer months, it's always hard to adapt in the winter months, and there's always that low point, and getting up late in the day, just feeling like you're in a rut. it's really hard to get out of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Getting out of ruts are always really tough, I find. Because I find I get into ruts and I just kind of like, there's like nothing I can do to get out of it. And then all of a sudden something happens. You're just like, oh.
Sometimes I feel like I just have to live through it.
Yeah,
like
you just have to wait.
Like you can't really do anything about it. Well, you can, but sometimes I feel like I'll just like wait it out. Just wait out this rut. It'll eventually pass, kind of thing. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, like it feels like, oh, no, I'm not gonna use that. Oof. I was gonna.
What?
I was gonna use like, when you're sick.
Yeah.
And you gotta use the toilet.
Oh no.
Like you can't force that. That's why I didn't want to say it, but you forced it into my.
I mean,
you forced me.
Honestly, yeah.
But like no,
you can't. There's nothing you can do.
There's nothing. You just gotta wait. You gotta wait for it to hit you, and when it hits you, it sucks. Especially after you have Popeyes or Taco Bell. You know it's gonna happen, but you just gotta sit in there and wait. And that's at the end of the day, that's what you gotta do.
Just wait it out and wait for the
but
moment
I find,
to pass.
But I'm not wrong. Right?
No, you're not. You're very much right. I think everybody as a human being who's ever lived, including myself, has had to go through that. It's almost like embarrassing to admit, but at the same time, it's like, no, it happens.
It happens to everybody at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's very normal. I think people don't like being normal. But
on my first day of school of this year, it was September. And I was so excited to start too. I was like, oh, I get to go back to school. And I got food poisoning. And it lasted, it was like a stomach flu or something. And I think it was food poisoning. But it lasted days.
I was really happy that I was not.
Days.
Yeah, I was not around you.
Oh
you were just
my
texting
God.
me all day. I had to go to class for you and everything. You were texting me all day just how bad it was. I was like, I'm really happy I'm not there right now. That's all I could think about. No, I'm kidding. That's not all.
I was so sad. It was just kind of like I had to miss a few days of school, like right off the bat, and I was just like not having it. I don't want to relive that.
But like you would consider that like sickness as a low point, and I find sickness is another analogy that's probably better than just having to wait to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That
Again,
is
waiting
literally
it
just
out.
sitting there and waiting waiting for it to pass. We had COVID over the summer, and
It's terrible.
look, I'm not gonna get into COVID stuff, but it was brutal. It kicked me in the butt, especially since when COVID started, I was working like just a job at a grocery store, and I didn't get it yet. I went like almost over 2 years without getting COVID, and all of a sudden I get it, and I'm like, oh, this is the big fuss. Oh wow, okay, I kind of get it now. You know what I mean? Like it punched both of us in the face. We just kind of had to sit there and wait. Every day we woke up, we were just like sitting there, just like no energy.
Yeah, it was so bad.
We could barely watch TV. We could there was nothing you could do to make you comfortable. I was profusely sweating like constantly.
Oh my God, it's
bad.
It's bad.
It was bad, but you just had to sit there and wait. And I find like going through ruts and stuff
It makes you stronger.
in life. It makes you stronger at the end of the day.
It's like your immune system. It gets used to it and it's able to fight back.
It's tough to get through.
And like when you go through a rut, you know what to expect, and then you're able to approach it in a different way. Like, what can I do to make this better? And when you get sick, what can I do to make this better? I sleep. I drink fluids. I buy medicine to help my cough, and make sure that I'm taking care of myself.
You do the little things that
your chicken noodle soup.
Help. You know what? I'm not a soup guy when I'm sick.
I am a soup guy.
I'm not a soup guy in general. I remember when I got sick once. This was long before COVID, years and years ago. I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry guys, I'm sick. Like to my friend's group chat or something. They're like, oh, drink some soup, and I'm like, I don't really like soup. And they're like, what? And they were like so mad at me.
I know a lot of people
that they didn't
don't
like soup.
like soup.
And I'm just like, look, I'm sure soup tastes great. It's just not something I enjoy. I don't know what it is about it. I've just never really liked it.
I'm a soup guy when I'm sick and in the fall. Or should I say gal? I don't know.
I always say soup guy because I'm a gal.
I just think it's funny. But I am a soup guy. I like soup. Chicken noodle soup and tomato soup, to be specific.
I don't know. It doesn't vibe with me. When I'm sick, growing up, I always had like
We're
saltine
just like going
crackers.
off topic.
Look, man, it's a podcast. It's a live podcast. We're gonna go off topic.
We're talking about soup and saltine crackers, and we're trying to get out of ruts. But the message here is, if you want to get out of a rut, you have to have some of that chicken noodle soup.
Chicken noodle soup is good, but like
Yeah,
I just
but
not my
I'm
vibe.
using it as an analogy. It's a metaphor.
For you got to use your chicken noodle soup. I got you. I got you. I get it now. Yeah. No, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So, like dealing with a low point, dealing with your fears, and like you're kind of like sad. Sometimes when you get into a rut, you feel more anxious and you can feel more depressed, which I know that I've gone through this past year. In the last, I would say, 8 months, it has been, it started off okay. And I feel like as the winter progressed, I started feeling like more sad and I guess less excited or less motivated to do things. And I tend to like just push myself to do those things. But at the end of the day, it's still hard for me when I go home and I just feel so burnt out and so exhausted. And the only thing I want to do is sleep for 3 days straight. But I have to get up every day, like really early, or sometimes I don't want to get up. Like I have to get up early, but I don't get up until like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And then that's really hard because then I feel like I'm dragging my feet and I feel like I'm kind of letting myself down. And when it gets to that point, that's kind of where, okay, now I have to make myself some chicken noodle soup. Like, what can I do to help myself? And it's honestly just taking care of yourself. Or if it's just like reading inspirational quotes or doing something that makes you happy, or just taking time away from what you are currently doing that's causing burnout and putting it aside. Even if it's like somewhat of an important priority, I feel that you are more priority over work or over what you have to do. So it's just kind of taking a step back. And sometimes I find that we have to take a step back before we can take a step forward and improve ourselves. Yeah. And I find that those ruts and those like depressive points are those moments where it kind of lets us sink into our own head a little bit more and think about what we want, like goals, or what we like, how did we end up here, and then how can we make that better. And I think a lot of the times it's like people think it's going through a depression is a bad thing, but it's not necessarily always a bad thing. I think you can learn from it.
Can be a bad thing, but it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's like the analogy you said before, like sometimes you gotta, like as a kid, kids have to get sick because if they don't get sick, they're gonna get much more sick later.
Yeah,
gotta build an immune system.
Yeah.
So sometimes going through depression isn't necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes it's like, hey, I gotta get through this low point so that I can learn how to better myself and be a better person, not only just to myself but also to other people. You know what I mean? And I can help other people get through their low points.
Yeah, and I think that it's really hard, especially with people, because you go up to someone and they ask you, hey, how are you feeling today? And then you say, I'm not feeling so good. They're expecting you to usually say, oh, I'm doing good. I think that's kind of like the expected response from people, like, oh, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm doing great, or I'm good, how are you? And a lot of the times people are not good. So it's like when you're sharing, and sometimes it may seem like oversharing, where you say, you know what, I'm not doing so well today. I'm not feeling great. And then someone, they just don't want to talk to you anymore, or they just kind of back away and they're kind of scared to converse with you because they think that you're just going to go off and talk about everything that's bothering you. But you don't have to overshare or share everything that's on your mind, I think. But it should also be normalized to not have good days, and that it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to feel, anxious or just have a bad day. I think everybody's like, oh, you always have to have a good day. You always have to be up at 5. You have to go to the gym. You have to drink water. You have to run laps around your neighborhood to be able to be happy and healthy. But it's like you can't be doing all of those things at the same time. You could be doing maybe 2 of those things, maybe getting up early and drinking water, and maybe you're not going to the gym, but you still feel bad or maybe guilty because you're not. But you should feel happy because you're still doing something that helps you. Instead of looking at the big picture, look at the little things that you're doing to help improve your everyday life. Whether it be going to bed maybe 30 minutes before, 30 minutes earlier every night, drinking a little extra water. Even if you don't hit your goals, as long as you're trying to do something to improve your everyday life and happiness, I think that's where you're able to kind of live without falling deeper into that rut. Yeah.
And that's really interesting. Wow, very insightful.
Thank you. I'm here all day.
I mean, for the next like 20-something minutes, I don't know how much time we have left. We do have prepared.
Inspirational quotes.
I wasn't talking.
I'm sorry.
You're finishing my sentence because you know exactly what I was going to. We do have some inspirational quotes that we'd like to share. I think one of them kind of goes to what we were saying. A lot of these that we have, we already kind of talked about a bit, but
we chose 2 each.
Yeah. We'll go with the first one here. I think this is mine.
Yeah,
this
that
is
one's
something
yours.
You talked about a bit, about like earlier in your little spiel over there. It's like I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I think that one's really cool. Just because like, oh, whoops, sorry.
It's okay. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
I think to me that's kind of really important because I see the world as taking a step back. You know what I mean? As I feel like people are constantly, you know, drowning themselves in work, and they feel like the only way to get out of that feeling of constantly being drowned in work
words
are hard, is to put yourself through it and just suck it up and be like, I'm just gonna do this.
It's what's
but
called,
sometimes it's you just gotta take a step back and live, and you know, take a break, because we only have one life. You know, you just gotta live it. And I think at the end of the day, I think you just have to take a step back and live on your feet for a bit. And then when you go back to work, you'd be so surprised how much work you get done and how slowly you actually work when you're going through a rough patch. And you just have to kind of like take a step back and breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
like a break. You know, the hustle life, don't live it. It's not healthy. It's toxic.
Yeah.
Like people are always like, you gotta hustle to get where you want to be. You gotta hustle if you want money. You gotta hustle if you want a happiness.
And like to a degree,
it's like,
you
okay,
do.
Hold on.
To a degree, you do.
Yeah.
But you can't put your work or that hustle above your own mental health and your own well-being, because once you start doing that, your hustle just becomes busy work. At the end of the day, I find when I'm working on something and I've been working on it for hours and I don't take any breaks, I will get less work done than if I worked for, you know, short amount of times and I took breaks. You know what I mean? I will get more work done if I take breaks. And it's as simple as that. And I think it's just something that I always have believed in, that taking breaks and taking a step back.
I think that's something we touched in our last podcast as well, where it's like really important to take breaks. And just, having that hustle life is definitely not something that you want to have to put yourself through constantly, because I mean, I've done that. I think we've all done that. And it's the easiest way, or a guaranteed way, that you'll burn out.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well.
How's your mic doing over there? I just see it kind of like bouncing around.
My mic's fine. Don't worry about me, okay? I'm doing great. It's my belly. I'll go get Durdex quote. I think this one's yours.
Yeah, this one's mine, and I really like this one. It says, sorry, hold on. I'll look at this monitor. It says, do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway. So do what makes you happy, and don't worry about everyone else, because they're going to criticize you anyway. It's kind of like, I like to live my life doing what I want, because it doesn't matter what I do. People are always there to criticize me no matter what I do. They're just always there ready to round the corner and be like, that's not right, you're wrong, I'm right. And it's just like this whole thing. I don't know why you're living your life the way that you're living it, because I wouldn't live my life like that. And it's like a lot of just criticism. And, you know, that's where you kind of politely say, well, this is my life, not yours. So I'm going to live my life the way that I want to. Yeah. And do what makes me happy and do what I enjoy, not what you enjoy. So just kind of, it's a lot when a lot of people go, if I was in your shoes, or if I was you, I wouldn't do that. Like, I hate that. I absolutely hate that.
Yeah, I think life is about doing what you want. And if you don't do what you want, then why?
Exactly.
You know, you might be looking at me and you're like, Thomas, that sounds really, really
deep.
My gosh.
What?
Forgot to use these.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
These are names,
we made new ones. Do it again.
Sorry, I'll do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks so cool.
Yeah, I made these and I totally forgot to use them. But anyways.
Well, we have them for future podcasts as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard because we like made a different graphics and then like forget to use them, but it's okay 'cause we have them ready.
It's
They're
fine.
there.
I just wanted to throw that in there because I worked really hard on it.
They look really good.
But either way, my point is, I find you just kind of, you live once, and you just gotta do what you love and find what you love, and then when you find what you love, just do it, because at the end of the day, you can live with, you can die with all the money in the world, it won't matter.
And like, I wanted to move to Vancouver. I've been wanting to move to Vancouver since 2016, but I kept talking about it to friends and family, and they just kind of go like, oh, you want to move all the way out there? That's kind of expensive, don't you think? Or I have a friend who would move out to Vancouver and who would tell me like, oh, don't move here, it's expensive, like you'll never make it, kind of thing. And I kind of, it's not that they'll say you'll never make it, but it kind of feels like I'm being put down in a way where they say, oh, don't move out here, it's too expensive. It's like, okay, well, I understand that it's too expensive, but I still want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, eventually, if I can get to that point. But it's hard when people like constantly like make you feel like you're making the wrong decision. But the thing is there is no wrong decision. You make the decision for you that you feel is right. And sometimes it doesn't always go the way that you planned. But I think that's the beauty of life. Like, things, you can't just know exactly what's going to happen. Otherwise, it's not going to be exciting. It's not going to make life worth living, because then you're just going to avoid the things that you don't want to do, or avoid the situations that you don't want to be in, and then constantly seek the ones that like the positive situations. So, let's say you're going to have a bad day at work. You're just not going to go in. Versus if you're going to get promoted today, you're going to go in. So you're going to kind of live your life just seeking that like dopamine. And then it's not going to really hit you, because you already expect it to happen. So you can't really live your life expecting every moment to be exactly how you plan it to be in your head. Because like, I know for me, when I have a specific goal or plan, I imagine it in a specific way. And when I achieve it, it's never usually how I imagined it being. Sometimes it's really great and it's a lot better, and sometimes it's kind of like almost like, oh, this is it.
Yeah, when
you know what I mean?
You put so much like expectation in it, and then all of a sudden it happens, and it's just like, and you're kind of.
Yeah, you just.
Not a lot of words were used in that sentence, but I feel like my message was portrayed.
It was very much portrayed.
We can move on to
our next topic.
Our
next quote. Yeah. We got so pulled into that conversation.
Yeah, we really did. Anyways, here's our next quote. I believe this one's mine.
Yes, I like this one.
It's very simple, very easy, straight to the point. Just prove them wrong. I am a strong believer that, everybody here has a purpose in some way, and sometimes you don't know what that is personally, but if you don't know what that is, that does not mean somebody else does, right? You have to trust in yourself. And you're going to hear countless times in your life, no, you can't do this. Like, to use you, no, you can't move to Vancouver. No, you're not good enough. You're not going to make it, or whatever they would say. They keep saying, no, you're not good enough. You can't do this. Because in their world, in their mind, and in their purpose, it doesn't fit that reality. But that doesn't mean it doesn't fit for yours, right? And that's something I really believe in, is that at the end of the day, it's your life.
Yeah.
And if other people are going to tell you that, hey, like, you're not going to make it here, just prove it wrong, because that's what life is. People are going to say no. You just got to say yes and go all in.
But I think it's also going all in without trying to prove them wrong, if that makes any sense. Like, you don't want to live your life constantly trying to prove people wrong just to see the reaction, or just to, in spite, there we go. You don't want to live your life in spite and be like, well, I'll prove you wrong. and then you're doing it in spite of them. You want to do it for yourself as well.
Yeah, it's your life, and that you should live it the way you want to, and not let other people, and to tell you otherwise, and use it as fuel. Like,
yeah,
hey, like use it as motivation. This person thinks I can't do this.
and then I will do it.
Watch me. Kind of thing,
yeah.
Well, and as simple as that might seem, it's kind of the way that it is sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you only do it because they said that you can. You do it because you want to, not because they think you can't, right? It's about the way you approach it.
It's like those lonely bus rides home, and you're like listening to music, and you just kind of get way too in the zone, and you're just thinking about your life, and like you're in a dark place. Maybe you're like not having the best day, but you're just thinking about it. You're like, this person told me that I'm not good enough. This person told me this, and you're just kind of like feeling kind of sad and just really like, not a lot of words were used there either.
Well, why don't we go to some? Oh, sorry, but there's a but there.
But you're like, you know what? No, I'm gonna prove them wrong. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and then you find that like moment of inspiration.
You used words at the end of it.
I did.
Why don't we move on to some more words? Some more very, very motivational words.
Our last quote, which is my quote.
Your last quote here.
I love this one.
Oh, that.
The flowers that bloom in adversity is the rarest and most beautiful of all. I really like this one because it's kind of like
so
in tough times, even though you're feeling sad, even though you're feeling depressed, and anxiety is really, high, and it's hard for you to leave the house. That adversity, even if you're trying and you're getting up every day, you're still able to grow and learn and become a better version of you, even in those times of adversity. And those times of adversity are those that are going to make you stronger. Back to what we were talking about before, when you're sick, you have to go through that, and it'll make you stronger on the end, right? So it's like when you go through a rough patch, the coping mechanisms of like how you've got through there, you'll look back on and you'll think, wow, I got myself through that rough patch, and you'll feel proud.
Yeah, I agree with that. I very much agree with that. I think that's a really interesting quote.
Yeah, and like even just like reading inspirational quotes when you're like not feeling good. Like I have an app where I just go and read all my inspirational quotes. If like affirmations where it says like you're loved today, you matter. And it sounds cheesy, but it's honestly so nice to read that, because even though you're reading like you matter, and you're like, oh, I matter, and you think that and you think about that, and that kind of you're reaffirming yourself that you matter, and then subconsciously you kind of catch on to that. So it's like reading those affirmations, especially out loud, really helps you kind of ground yourself, especially when you're having like severe anxiety and you don't know what's going on anymore, and you don't know where you fit maybe in the world or in the moment. Reading those quotes make you feel a lot more grounded and kind of more focused on the moment rather than everything that's going on around you. So I do like reading those quotes. I think they're nice. They're cheesy, but they're nice.
I love quotes. Sometimes they can be cheesy, but I think they can really inspire you to be motivated and to be creative.
Yes.
Bringing that creativity into your life, and I think that's really important. I think quotes are a creative way to inspire people. I've never been a very good person at making quotes, let's say. They're usually dumb and inappropriate, but
I try inappropriate. I mean, I try to make quotes every now and then. Like I think I have my own. I have like a little book where I write like life is, and then I started writing quotes. I'm working on it.
Yeah. No, but I think creativity is so important when you're trying to get through difficult times. I think having something to look forward to when it's in a creative aspect, I think is really fun and can really help with a lot of issues that you're going through. And I think we live in a day and age where being creative is so easy.
That's
right?
true.
If you have this creative idea and you want to express and you want to see what other people think, you don't have to see friends and family that you don't trust their opinion completely, because you're like, hey, I have this idea for this video, is it gonna be good? And they're like, yeah, Tommy, it's it's gonna be great. Just do what you want. I don't care. Just leave me alone. You don't always trust their opinion because you feel like they might be a bit biased. You live in a day and age now where you can literally pick up your phone and shoot a short film with it, and it'll look pretty
really
decent
cool.
if you do it in the right way. And if you have a creative idea, you can express it that way. And I think that's so interesting that we live in that world today, that you really have every option to just do anything creatively that you want. I think it's really interesting, really important for a lot of people to be able to express that and get feedback about it.
And like even me, like I use TikTok to do, because I've there's kind of a trend going on where it's like making things look cinematic.
Yeah.
And then posting them to TikTok, and I've kind of started learning how to color grade, how to edit footage on TikTok. Just posting that and experimenting with it. It's kind of really nice to see the feedback from like the community who's also into that artistic or that art form or of cinematography. And I think it's like a really great way to share something with the world. I think like if you're creating something, it's meant to be shared. You don't want to like keep that hidden. So because I used to do that all the time. I used to like draw and create animations, but they would just sit on my computer and no one would ever see them.
Yeah.
And it always feels so much better when you share that with someone, whether it be a family member or a friend or even just like the internet.
And just posting it and it being there. And so if somebody's like, hey, I want to see your animation, I want to see your work, you don't have to pull out a hard drive. Oh, give me your laptop. It's so easy. Like,
yeah,
hey, I
exactly.
want to see your animation. Hey, I want to see the shots you do. Yeah, sure. And you just take out your phone, you send it to them, and bippity boppity boo, they can see all your stuff and like really good quality video. And I think we're so, we're so privileged to have that option that we can literally just take an idea and post it and do that. And I think it's so cool. And make a living off of it,
like
too.
Video editing came so far from what it used to be. It's become such a creative medium for even like kids in high school. Like I find that people are just doing so many cool things with their iPhones. Yeah. Just going out and shooting stuff with their iPhones and making it look really cool and really good composition, some really cool cinematography, and it's kind of changing the way that movies are made almost. It's kind of like the Everything Everywhere All at Once, where they
That's
made...
cool.
Yeah.
They edited, I think, so the entire editing team was 5 people, and they edited the entire thing on Adobe Premiere Pro, just on a project file, just like one of our videos, just on a project file, and every single editor was somebody who learned how to do it on YouTube tutorials.
It's so cool.
Which is so crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell somebody like 5 years ago that somebody learned how to edit and edited a feature film that won Best Edit or whatever, the Oscar for that. Like, all they did was they just learned how to do it on Premiere and on YouTube, and it kind of goes to show you that we live in a day and age where if you want to do something and you are motivated to do something creatively, then you can, and you can learn how to do it well if you have the motivation.
I think it's just so cool that they just decided to, hey, I'm gonna just do this. And probably people told them like, oh, you won't be able to do that. And like, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna do it anyway. And they did because they thought it'd be fun.
Honestly.
Yeah. I think that again, that kind of goes back to like creativity and sharing that creativity and just kind of helping you get through a rut, finding some sort of activities to be able to do and do those things that make you happy so that you can kind of like move out of that. I think is really, really important. Even if it's just reading a book, because you might not, I mean, technically you can say arguably that you are being creative by reading because you're feeding your mind creative, like that you can imagine a world, so you are being creative, but you're also reading someone's creation that will inspire you as well, whether it be fictional or sometimes it's self-help. Sometimes when I'm in a rut, I like to read self-help books, just like that kind of change your perspective on how to live your life more in the moment versus in the future or the past. How to kind of look at the smaller picture instead of looking at everything that's going on in your life.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. I haven't seen the movie actually, but it's pretty good apparently. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. I saw the opportunity.
I thought I heard a sound and I got scared. I was like, "Is the house?"
Was it me talking?
No, I just
you
heard like a
scared of me
loud
talking?
boom, and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Could've
what
been
happened?"
anything. I think we're almost.
We're almost done
We're
our
almost done
little
here. We're almost out of time.
podcast.
Crazy.
Yeah, we've been on it for how long now?
Just under an hour, but
Oh,
we're
yeah.
we're
But
creeping up on an hour.
we kind of like wrapped up everything already. All our topics we
Yeah.
have. I mean, we can talk about the next show.
Well, the next one is gonna be super fun. We're gonna be talking about
Goals.
Whoa!
Oh, at the same time.
Nice. Oh, I was out of frame. Lower. Nice. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about goals. What is a goal? What is an achievable goal?
And why they are achievable.
And
And why
they
they're
are
achievable.
and why they're important. Why
Yeah.
they're achievable. That's a different.
How to make them achievable.
How to make them achievable,
Yeah.
as well as just why they're important.
Their importance.
to your mental health and to your life and all that jazz. And it'll be a really fun episode. A bit more.
A bit more
centered.
lively and centered around goals specific. But I think it'll be a bit more like, because this one was a bit more about like ruts and like
A lot of different
the
things.
winter
I'd say.
blues and chicken noodle soup.
A lot of soup talk. Welcome to soup talk.
And then finding inspiration and creativity and
Yeah.
doing the things that you love and reading positive quotes and all that stuff, but kind of taking what we talked about and discussed in this podcast and kind of moving forward on, even though you might be in a rut, you can still set goals. You can still achieve them too. And sometimes it's hard, but as long as you have a goal, you'll know that you're on a path to somewhere good for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great, and I think we'll touch on that a lot more and go deeper into it on our next podcast, whenever that may be in the coming years. Get it? 'Cause
It'll
it
either
took
be
us so
very
long.
soon or very
Or
forever.
or in a day, probably in a day.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Anyways, thank you
Very, very much.
for watching all the way to the end.
Yeah.
We're very grateful for that. I'm talking to you right there.
To the audience.
To the audience.
Hello.
You're just saying hi now. This is our names. I'm Thomas.
Hello, I'm Bree. Yeah, I don't think.
Goodbye, Embry.
Hey, goodbye, Embry. Did I even say who I was? No.
No, you didn't.
I was just like, hey,
Oh,
welcome. This is the podcast.
yeah.
But I think that it's the podcasts that aren't perfect because they're live. They're not going to be perfect, but it's the ones that are not perfect that are always the best. That are never like
We're doing
funny.
great. We're
That
doing
are
the
funny.
best we can.
I think I said that wrong. I said that are never funny. That are usually funny.
We're funny.
Yeah, I
Chicken
think
Noodle
so.
Soup podcast.
Is it like those books, The Chicken Noodle Soup or The Human
That's
Soul?
completely different.
Did I say that? No, that was
That's
not
not right. I
right
don't
at
know
all.
I think it's Chicken Soup for.
This far, thank you.
I don't know why.
Thank you.
I don't know why.
Thank
kept-
you. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I don't know
Yeah.
how to sign off. That's the
Well,
thing.
I think it's just thanks for watching. We'll see you
In our
next
next
week.
episode.
Next episode. Usually people say next week because they do weekly podcasts, but
This is
we're weird.
We're just good. It's a what is it? Podcast mania.
Podmania.
Podcast.
We'll come up with a better name. Come back next week and we'll have a better name for this marathon
next
of podcasts.
episode. It's probably
next
not going to
week,
be in a
next
week. It'll be in
episode,
probably
in a couple in a day.
20 minutes.
Okay, we'll talk about it. See you soon. Bye
Bye bye. The mic.